I like this corner of the city because it's like a nice down. Over here you have like Canal Street. It's like cheap food. It's like a crowded, a little dirty. The culture is interesting, which I love. And then at the same time you have like these galleries that are selling like crazy expensive pieces all within the one kind of like few blocks. I think it's a nice mix of like not separating culture too much. I think it's great for like keeping culture accessible to some degree. You know, people get nervous when they visit galleries sometimes still, but I think downtown is like, I used to live in Brooklyn, but downtown is always basically the only part of Manhattan I would go to. Occasionally Chelsea, but it's like here and then Brooklyn is all I really visited that much. Yeah. Maybe 1 year, and then I ended up staying for 6 years, 6.5 years. So yeah, I worked mainly as a travel writer because most of my work in Australia was journalism, so that was my background. So it was just before the Olympics was happening, and so the Japanese government were putting a lot of money and support into like encouraging international folks to come and visit all different parts of Japan. So I had a lot of work from like 2016 to 2019, and it was fun. I got to see like all 47 prefectures, which was amazing. And then around 2019, which was lucky timing wise because of COVID and everything, I started a creative agency with a Japanese business partner. So we did like helping international companies understand like Japanese business world, because my background was comms and writing, and my business partner's background was production, and then helping like Japanese companies create content and communications and like advertising stuff for international audiences. So trying to bridge that gap a little bit. Yeah. What are you doing? You can ask him if you want. But hey Adam, we met at Now Here Gallery, right?
Yes.
My friend Midori is doing a little video on me today because we're opening a new space on the Spinard Street soon.
Congratulations.
And I was walking through and I met Ethan and stuff the other day, and then I was like, maybe I'll bring her to come and film a little bit if
Perfect.
that's okay.
Would you like me to talk about the painting?
This is Adam, he's the artist whose this show is. It's an incredible show. It's a lot of fun. So you're on the spot now.
Sure. So we're in front of 1969 Gallery. My name is Adam Dressner and I'm a portrait painter. And I paint these small little portraits out in the street, usually in Washington Square Park or other places. But I have a show here for 2 months, and it's a portrait show. And the little painting, am I talking too much? This is good.
Keep going, this is great.
The little paintings are how I scout people. So it's like a slice of life, New Yorkers, all kinds of interesting people. And then if I have a particularly interesting face, I'll make like a big oil painting of them. And that's what the show is. And it includes a mix of random New Yorkers and some well-known people. There's Joyce Carol Oates is in it, up here. And Little Yachty, who signed he didn't realize that it wasn't normal for the model to sign their work. He signed it. Anna Delvey, Keith McNally, and I don't know, all kinds of people. And then just people, this is my friend David. When I think about Japanese art and culture, I think about both maximalist art and minimalist art. And here, the individual paintings are sort of minimalist in a way, something that I associate with Japan. But altogether, I actually view the works as almost a series, and I feel like the inside the frames are minimal, and together it's maximalist. I hope that answers your question okay enough.
No, I think it's a nice combination when you think. I get that perspective. Like, I guess traditionally Japanese culture has been seen as like, very zen and minimalist. But then if you go to Tokyo and you even go like the stores like Don Quixote or whatever, it's like, these are like kind of like Japanese Walmart, and it's just illustrations and cartoons and like a visual overload at the same time. So I think that's a good analogy.
Yeah, and I think some of the most popular contemporary artists from Japan are pretty maximalist.
Yeah, big time. Murakami. Matsuyama, all those guys. Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I think like I never, when I was young in Australia is kind of far from so many places, so I didn't travel a lot when I was younger. Like, is it connected okay? Yeah. But then when I was like 25, I moved to Japan, and I thought, yeah, like I said, I thought I'd only be there a short time, and I ended up enjoying it enough to stay there 7 years. But I never thought I would live in New York. Like, New York just seems like a place that I think a lot of people experience as like familiar through like culture, TV, movies, music. Like, I used to love like punk music from New York in the 70s. It's a very niche, but like the Ramones and Patti Smith. When I was a teenager, I was obsessed with that kind of subculture, I guess. So I never thought I'd be able to live in New York. But then when I got this job with Now Here, it's been like kind of a bit of a dream, honestly. But I think moving from Japan, especially post-COVID, moving from Japan to New York was, Australia to Japan was a big cultural shift, but then Japan, Tokyo to New York is like a whole different cultural shift altogether. I think I got bad because like things like service and everything in Japan is so like slick and professional. Like, there's less friction, if that makes sense, in daily life. For example, like you go to the cafe and you just like place the order and then you move along and then you get your coffee. Whereas here, I think New York is a city with a lot of friction, like so many different people moving around the city together, you know, people with different accents, different backgrounds. I think there's a kind of feeling, maybe it changed a little bit now with tourism opening back up, but in Japan everything kind of just moves so slickly and with its structure, you know, like trains are perfectly on time, everything's really clean, like the customer service is great, but it's not very personal. Whereas here it's like subways are late, it's hot, it's dirty, you know, like someone's yelling something. So when I first got here in summer, I'm like, this is a lot. I need to practice like my small talk. I don't know how to do like a small talk conversations with people because I feel like I haven't done it for ages. But I think that what is really special is like the experience that we had with Adam. I think that that's like such a New York experience that you don't necessarily have. Like in Japan, you can meet different people and people who have incredible talent and incredible stories, but it takes a kind of almost like you have to separate. You don't really have that experience, I didn't at least, that often in everyday life. I think it happens so much in New York, like everyday occurrences are like you'll get swept away and then you end up getting a tour of the artist who has their work here. Whereas in Japan it's more like kind of designated time, or you have to like sit down and make a more conscious like structure around it. So I think that that is a very energizing experience. And I don't know if it's like American culture versus Japanese culture, or whether it's just the nature of New York itself, because there's just so many different different people, different cultures, different experiences, all kind of forced to exist together. So people kind of have to be more open, especially in a city like compared to maybe LA, where everyone's in bubbles and drives cars to different places. Here everyone kind of lives on the street. That's what I noticed a lot too, is like going from summertime in Tokyo where it's really hot, like when I moved, or when I first visited, it was like summertime. So it's like summertime in Tokyo where it's really hot. Everyone's inside with their ACs and like nothing's happening. And then like summertime in Brooklyn where people are literally like spilling out onto the streets, hanging out on the streets. So that was a really like kind of refreshing experience, if that makes sense. Yeah, and I think that there's also like a sense of, in terms of art, my background is like creative industries and writing and culture, but not necessarily art specifically. So I think it's really interesting, the different approaches to like art and kind of showing people are showing their work and explaining their work. Like Adam's very open, as we saw, just willing to like walk us through all the work that he's been doing on the streets. Like his work comes from the streets too, right? Like he's sitting there in the park and like chatting with people and painting them. And I think that in Japan, it's just the main art exposure that I had was like Shokunin culture. So it's like one like craftsman culture. So it's like one person who's really good at like one thing and they'll just do that for their whole lives and make the most perfect, whether it's like a wood carving or whether it's like ukiyo-e or whether it's like, it can be anything, calligraphy. Those are all like cliche, like traditional ones. But even like my friends that were hairstylists in Japan, it's like they'll practice and practice and practice and be like really perfect at this one thing. And it's kind of like, it's great for like excellence of craft, and I think there's a lot to admire and respect. But I also think that there's a lot of like fun and accessibility in like someone like Adam, who's not a professional. He's not like a Shokunin, and I'm sure he would probably say that too. It's like he just feels like the need to express, whether it's himself or express other people through his own work. It's such a different kind of art and cultural experience, and kind of, I think both can learn from each other, and I learn from both a lot, but it's definitely a strong contrast. So it's interesting too, I guess, when because we work with Japanese artists who probably have been brought up in a lot of ways in that world, but now they're in New York as practicing artists. So I can't really speak for them, but that's also such an interesting like kind of combination of like their culture and their background and where they grew up has to have influenced some part of their art and craft. Like Hiroshi Masuda, I'll send you some links, but Hiroshi, who's our studio artist in Dumbo, we have a studio in Dumbo as well, and we give an artist this studio space for a year to create whatever work they want to create, and at the end of that year they'll have a show in our main gallery space, and he is kind of that both. You can definitely see it in his work, but it's a combination of like the way that he's working is very like focused, but then at the same time the outcome of the piece is so vibrant and chaotic, and I think a nice example of that kind of mix of taking parts of yourself from Japan and taking parts of what you're now learning from living in another culture, being New York, and bringing it into one. So Japanese artists going to America, being seen as worthwhile and interesting and worthy of praise, and then sent back to Japan. So I think it's just like such an interesting relationship of like cultural exchange and different cultures like taking it, putting their own twist on it, and then sending it back out into the world again.